Congratulations to everyone who are with me, dear learners, honorable guardian, and respected viewers. How are you? I hope you are keeping well by the grace of Almighty Allah. I am also well. Dear learners, you know that in previous class I taught you English second paper, and I also taught you transformation of sentence. That is how to transform complex to compound and simple. And I also completed how to transform complex to compound and simple. At the ending of the previous lesson, I told you today I will teach you compound to complex and simple. And I also told you have to study the rules and regulation of transformation of sentence, that is how to transform compound to complex and simple. I hope you have already read out the rules and regulation about how to transform compound to complex and simple. Okay, let's enjoy the class. Dear learners, look at the whiteboard. There are 4 sentences, and 4 sentences are compound sentence. Compound sentence, dear learners, you know that complex and compound sentence is connected with and, but, still, yet, or. You can see that I have already written 4 types of sentence. 3 types of sentence is connected with and 1 sentence is connected with still but yet. Yes, still but yet express same meaning, so I have written 1 sentence, and in this sentence I have written still but yet. My dear learners, look at the question number 1. Compound sentence, work hard and you will shine in life. Dear learners, work hard, this is imperative sentence. According to kinds of sentence, it is imperative, work hard. That is before conjunction, and it is principal clause. After conjunction, it is subordinate clause. You will shine in life. So we can see that and is connected and has connected to clause. So it is compound sentence. Dear learners, in the exam, you are directed. If you are directed to make it complex, on that time what should you do? In this case, you have to, first of all, you have to place if. Place if. Then you have to place you. But you can ask me where we have found you. You know that work hard, this is imperative sentence. So in imperative sentence, subject is omitted. When you will make it complex, you must place subject you. Then you have to place rest of the part of the principal clause. That means if you work hard, then you have to place comma in place of and you have to omit and, then you have to place subordinate clause. You will shine in life, but subordinate clause should be placed unchanged. There is no change. My dear learners, then you have to make it simple. Dear learners, in the exam, if you are directed, make it compound to simple. In which case, first of all, you have to place by. There is a structure, you know that by plus gerund. So we have already placed by, then we have to take verb, principal verb work, then we have to add ing, that will be gerund, that means by working. Third, then we have to place rest of the part of the principal clause. Then we have to omit and we have to use comma in place of and. Then we have to put subordinate clause, but subordinate clause should be placed unchanged. It's okay? Okay, my dear learners, look at the question number 2, and it is another compound sentence, and it is also connected with and, but both sentences are connected with and, but it has difference. You noticed it is imperative, but now look at before and, he was ill, that is assertive. This is assertive sentence and it is another assertive sentence. So if any sentence expresses region, dear learners, look at the principal clause. If principal clause expresses region, then you are directed to make it complex sentence. If you are directed to complex sentence, in this case you have to use as or since. Then you have to use rest of the principal clause. That means principal clause should be placed unchanged. He was ill. Then you have to place comma in place of and. Then you have to use subordinate clause, but it should be placed unchanged. That means he could not go to school. It's okay? Dear learners, I told you, if any clause expresses region and you are directed to make it simple sentence. Suppose in the exam you are directed to make it simple. On that time, what should you do? In this case, you have to, first of all, you have to use because of in simple sentence. Then you have to make possessive case of subject, of the subject, he, his. Then you have to omit auxiliary, all sorts of auxiliary. Then this is adjective, but it should be noun. Illness. So because of his illness, then you have to use comma in place of and. You have to omit and. Then you have to place subordinate clause, but it should be placed unchanged. It's okay? My dear learners, look at question number 3. Dear learners, I told you, if any sentence is connected with and, definitely it is compound sentence. So it is connected with and it is compound sentence. As we have recognized it is compound sentence, then we have to make it complex sentence. But how we can make it complex sentence? Dear learners, if you find assertive sentence, if we find, we have already found assertive sentence, it is principal clause. If principal clause and subordinate clause are assertive sentence, in which case first of all you have to use, in complex sentence you have to use when. You have to use when. In a word, if it expresses period, time, in which case you have to use when before principal clause. Before principal clause. So when I went to market, then we have to omit and we have to use comma in place of and, then we have to use subordinate clause, but it should be set unchanged. That means I bought a mobile phone. I bought a mobile phone. It's okay. Next, dear learners, in the exam, suppose in the exam you are directed to make it simple sentence, but how you can make it simple sentence? In this case, if both subjects are same, look at, both subjects are same, I. If you find both subjects are same, in this case first of all you have to omit subject. You have to omit subject of principal clause. Then what should you do? Then you have to place verb 1, that means when, go. Then we have to add ing with verb 1, that is jiran. That is jiran. That means we have already omitted subject, then we have placed principal verb and ing, that means going to market, in place of and we have to omit, and then we have to place subordinate clause, but subordinate clause should be set unchanged. That means I bought a mobile phone. Dear learners, you know that compound sentence is connected with still but yet. Still but yet. All sorts of conjunction express same meaning. So I have written in a sentence all sorts of conjunction. For your better understanding, he did his best. Is still or but yet, both are same. He could not come out successful. Could not come out successful. Dear learners, suppose you are directed to make it complex sentence in the exam. If you find in such way, what should you do? Then first of all you have to though or although before principal clause. Before principal clause. That means though or although he did his best. Then you have to omit all sorts of conjunction, that means still but yet. Then you have to place comma in place of still but yet. Then you have to use he could not come out successful. Then you have to use subordinate clause, but subordinate clause should be placed unchanged. My dear learners, in the exam you are directed to make it simple. Same sentence. Simple. In this case, first of all you have to use in spite of. In spite of or despite but in after despite you should not use of. You have to use only despite, but when you use in spite you have to use of after in spite. Then you have to make possessive case of the subject of principal clause. So he is. Then you have to place verb 1. Then you have to add ing, that is jiran. that means in spite of his dream. Then you have to use rest of the part of the principal clause, his best. Then you have to use comma in place of all sorts of conjunction. Then you have to place subordinate clause, but subordinate clause should be placed unchanged. My dear learners, we know that compound sentence is connected and but or. We have already known how to transform compound to complex and simple, but we have transformed with and still but yet, but it has also another role which is connected with or. Now I am going to teach you another example which is connected with or. You know that compound sentence is also connected with or, but how we can transform compound to complex and simple? Let's enjoy the structure. Compound, drive, carefully, or there may be accident. Dear learners, can you get what type of sentence it is? Of course, it is compound sentence. How? Because it is connected with or. So, you are directed to make it complex. Make it complex. In the exam, if you are directed to make it complex, in which case, first of all, you have to place if. If as principal clause is assertive sentence, you have to place subject you, because it has a subject you, because in imperative sentence subject is omitted here. If you drive, then you have to write rest of the part of the principal clause, drive carefully. Then you have to use comma in place of or. Then you have to write subordinate clause, but subordinate clause should be placed unchanged. That means if you drive, if you find it imperative sentence and you are directed to make it complex, then you have to make, if you do not, you have to add negative sentence. First of all, if, then subject you, as it is imperative sentence, but it is complex sentence. Complex sentence should have two subjects. So you have to bring you, then you have to negative sense. If you do not drive carefully, then you have to omit or, and you have to place comma in place of or. Then you have to use subordinate clause, but subordinate clause should be placed until there may be accident. It's okay? Okay. Dear learners, then you have to make it simple. Compound to simple. You have to make compound to simple. Transform compound to simple. If you find any sentence is connected with or and you are directed to make it simple, in which case you first of all you have to write without without. In previous time I told you, when you will use by, then you have to use gerund. When you will use without, then you have to use gerund. So we have already placed without, then we have to put verb, that means drive, that means we have to make it gerund, without plus gerund. Then we have to driving here, we have to place rest of the part of the principal clause. Without driving carefully, then we have to use comma, then we have to write subordinate clause, but subordinate clause should be placed unchanged. That means there may be accident. Without driving carefully, there may be accident. It's okay? Okay, thanks to all. Dear learners, I have already completed how to transform compound to complex and simple. In next class I will teach you how to transform simple to compound and complex. So in which case you have to read out rules of about transformation simple to compound and complex. There are a lot of rules in your reference book. So if you study these rules, I think you'll be able to understand all sorts of transformation of sentence. Okay, thanks to all.